What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker.
Amir, Rahimi.
And today, y'all, we got a very interesting topic we're going to be debating because it deals with one of the icons in the game and two of his most acclaimed albums. The Great Debaters, y'all. Alright, Amir, so today on The Great Debaters, we are here to discuss Jay-Z and two of his most acclaimed albums. We got The Blueprint on the one hand and The Black Album on the other hand. And we're here to discuss and debate which one is better. So, leading up to The Blueprint, Jay-Z, people say what they want to say. Biggie had died. Nas at this point had shown some inconsistency in a lot of people's eyes. So, at this point, I think Jay-Z was considered the forerunner of the King of New York, or the one running the game, per se, from New York at least. So, that being said, when we get to The Blueprint, what were your initial thoughts when you heard this project?
When I first heard it, I thought it was great, and I thought it was his best project since Reasonable Doubt, that's for sure. The one thing that struck with me the most were some of the production, and we saw, especially for Rockefeller, two big in-house producers with Kanye West, who really... He had gotten some limelight on previous projects, but with this project, I think he really got some shine because he produced 4 tracks, Just Blaze being the other one, and Bink also producing 3 tracks, and I thought the production on this album was just probably the best.
And Eminem, of course.
And Eminem with the Renegade. We'll talk about that later.
So we had a little bit of a range, but still, other than I'd say Renegade, the album had a very similar feel to it with the soul samples, the soulfulness, as well as kind of also at the same time a little bit of poppy, upbeat R&B-ishness.
Yeah.
So we had that kind of balance there, and it definitely marked kind of the evolution of what Jay-Z was gonna be with having Just Blaze and Kanye anchor his sound for a little while. So I thought that was interesting and valuable for what we were going to see. And then lyrically, of course, he remained razor sharp. So yeah. With H to the Izzo, of course, I always appreciated his little shout out to Maryland on there. So I love that.
Oh,
But for you, what stood out lyrically about the project?
You don't know.
And why?
Jay-Z is one of the best braggadocious rappers there is. That song kind of exemplifies it, and just that hard freaking beat. It was so hard he had to re-resurrect it on Blueprint too with the freaking the Gully MOP. So just that beat, man, it's just hard. Jay-Z is the first person that comes to mind when I hear a beat like that. Well, not the first, but I'm happy he got the beat. Is just what I'm trying to exclaim here.
And then you have the more popular songs also with Girls, Girls, Girls and Song Cry. And with those two in particular, I like the Girls, Girls, Girls is kind of reaching back to some of the artists that inspired him with Slick Rick, but obviously with the Rulers Back reference starting off the album with Slick Rick. So Slick Rick definitely gets a lot of shine and acclaim on the project as one of rap's great artists, of course. And then the Biz Markie and Q-Tip I enjoyed. And then Song Cry I thought was good in the sense that it showed a little glimpse, a sliver into his personality, I guess, as opposed to the braggadociousness that dominates much of his work.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought all that stuff was great. I really, as far as Renegade, which we mentioned earlier, what I thought well, let's get your thoughts on Renegade before I espouse on that one.
I thought it was great. I think Eminem had the advantage on it because he produced it, and that's just more of a beat that you can think of Eminem on as opposed to a Jay-Z on, which he also did produce on the Black Album, Moment of Clarity. But I think to comment on Nas's claim if Eminem murdered Jay-Z on his own shit, I don't know if I've ever asked you that question. I don't think Eminem murdered Jay-Z on his own shit, but I think Eminem had the superior verses and just his flow is at that time I think was at a peak.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eminem, if I just say who did a better job on the song, lyrically, performance-wise and all that, I would say Eminem over Jay-Z, but I also think Jay-Z wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that Eminem, as you said, I mean, there was a period from 99 to around this time, maybe through the Eminem show of 2002 into 2003, that 4 or 5 year run right there where Eminem was pretty flawless.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
So that being said, you know, obviously with the Blueprint takeover, so I always have kind of mixed emotions about Takeover, because on the one hand I love it, on the other hand, like Nas and others have said, I think other people have come out with more robust, more thorough, extensive disses of Jay-Z tied to the beefs that were going on related to this song. So I might not like the song as much as others, even though I think it's a great song and I think it's hilarious, but I don't think it's held. To me, it's not in the rarefied air of like great diss songs. What about you?
I agree. I think we should have a separate video just talking about who won and why we think so. So I don't want to get too into the Takeover, Ether, Super Ugly, all that stuff.
Yeah, let's.
But as far as the production and the sound of it, I think it was awesome. I think Kanye West just did an excellent job with sample choice as well, and just how the song concludes. The disses I also thought were good. But I won't get too into the meat of how I feel about the song. Okay.
So that's a good kind of review cap of the Blueprint. So then obviously the Blueprint 2 is not in this discussion because we're moving to the Black Album, which is the one that came after Blueprint 2, which was released in 2003. And this is his quote-unquote last album, which clearly is not the case. But that being said, let's get into the Black Album, because there is a line of thought that this may be his best album, Amir. So, for you, what songs really stand out and why on the Black Album?
I'm going with Dirt Off Your Shoulder because of such a nostalgic point of view. That when that came out, amazing. You know, Timbaland was just, that was his only beat on the album, and Jay-Z wanted, since this was his last album, he wanted to experiment with, I think he was actually so focused on this album, let me tell you why, because he wanted to get a taste of each producer, you know, Timbaland, DJ Quick, Neptunes, Eminem, Kanye West, Just Blaze, etc., Rick Rubin. So Dirt Off Your Shoulder comes to mind. Lucifer with that sample, my first song with the Biggie sample in the beginning. There's just so many songs on this, and I think that with every Jay-Z album, there's a couple throwaways. And for this one, personally, for me, would be like Allure and Change Clothes.
Yeah, I was very surprised with Change Clothes in the sense that they made that a single. Yeah. I know the Neptunes angle of it and they were hot or whatever, but I just thought that song was one of his least good singles of his career, and I think Jay-Z is one of the best, if not the best of all time, of picking singles and picking beats for singles. So it's kind of shocking that on one of his best, if not his best albums, that he made such a, in my opinion, bad decision to go with Change Clothes when the album is so robust and has so much stellar material. And that, you know, Allure and whatever. But the rest of the album, I think, is amazing. And I think for a man who, you know, when you hear him speak and stuff, he's not as arrogant, but lyrically and in his music, he's among the most arrogant rappers.
Yes.
And his arrogance on this album is like astonishing. But I also thought the album is so good though, and it's you know, you do get a little bit with December 4th and some of the other songs he does. Moment of Clarity, he does give you a little bit more into his kind of psyche, I guess, and his life, talking about his mom a little bit more, and how his mom kind of shaped him in a lot of ways, which, you know, we had heard maybe sprinkles of a little bit. I don't think to this magnitude. So I enjoyed and appreciated that, and I also thought it showed him as a more well-rounded artist, which I enjoyed and appreciated. And like you said, with Lucifer and Dur Off Your Shoulder and some of these other songs, I thought the beats are just astounding.
Dude.
I want to get your take on this, Amir, because these are two phenomenal albums, and obviously Encore. What more can I say? There's all these great songs on here. So that being said, when you're looking back at it, Amir, what takes the cake with the Blueprint or the Black Album, and why?
Okay, Black Album is my pick, and although I think Reasonable Doubt may be his best album, I'm going with Black Album's my favorite album.
Okay, well, let's talk about best, Amir. Which one's best? Which one's best? What's the better album?
So watch, Black Album and compared to these, right? And I think it's actually kind of more, and I want to hear your take on this if you agree with me or not. I kind of think that it's a little bit of a concept album in the sense where it starts off with like a Just Blaze in the interlude, the first interlude, not the PSA interlude, where he's talking about, you know, change has to come, things have to evolve, things die, etc. And then it goes right into December 4th with, you know, the mother talking about how he was born, and he's giving it a little background, and then it ends with my first song sampling, you know, quote unquote, maybe his biggest influence, you know, Notorious B.I.G., and, you know, saying, you know, this is my first song, and then he's talking about the last song, and I think it just ties so well, and it's kind of like his encore, so to speak. I think it ties just so well, and he's given various aspects of his life and stories with, you know, a moment of clarity, renaming his classics and tracks, and what more can I say, such a bragging song. And just, like, we talked about the throwaway, like, change clothes, but it's just so well-rounded. It gives you so many sides of him. And I think it's a little more of a concept album than people even realize.
I agree. I think for those reasons and a few I'm about to name, I also think the Black Album is Jay-Z's best album because, you know, I think, well, these two especially, it's the better of the two. In the sense that I think, interestingly enough, I think that the Blueprint, a lot of people cite for its production, but I think the production on the Black Album is actually better.
I agree.
I think there's more stronger beats throughout the entire project. I also think because Jay-Z lets you a little bit more into his life and his thoughts and his history and his mind, I think you get another layer that I don't think was as prominent on the Blueprint. So for that, I think the lyrics are more well-rounded. I think the beats are better, and they're also harder, which in general I prefer, which I know is just a aesthetic and personal choice as opposed to a quality thing. But I think that they're just harder, and I think that makes it more appealing to me. And then the songs that aren't as hard, I think, is a good balance on the Black Album, whereas I think the Blueprint is much more into one lane and doesn't really veer from that too much, other than Renegade and maybe Song Cry as much. Whereas I think the Black Album, it's kind of scattershot. You know, it flows well, it's excellently sequenced, and I think that it's, you know, it's a brilliant piece of work. So
amazing.
For that reason, I'm gonna go with the Black Album, and Amir is as well. But that's us, y'all. We're the Great Debaters. So let us know what you guys think in the comments section. Which of these two landmark Jay-Z projects do you think is the better one? And hit us up. There it is, y'all. Catch us next time, The Great Debaters.